today to really keep his championship hopes alive. But watch out for the black car. Michael Andretti, always aggressive on this racetrack. He's won here 3 times in the past. He'd love to match Alonso Jr.'s record of 4 victories, and then they would have taken all of the victories on this particular track between them, because next year it won't be the same track at all. They're moving it further round, and it's going to be a completely different layout. Still chasing. This is one of the fastest parts of the track, about 185 miles an hour, and then hard on the brakes and down into the hairpin. They're taking this one at just about 30 miles an hour, sometimes in first gear, sometimes second, and then back up through the gears once again as they head towards the chicane. And Andretti keeps the pressure on Maurizio Gugelmin.
Good dive, sir. That is the battle for 4th place. They're coming through under BC Place, underneath the stadium there. And Andretti all over the back end of Maurizio Gugelmin. Different chassis, different engines, different tyres on these cars. Maurizio Gugelmin, the Hollywood car with a Mercedes engine and a Reynard chassis and Firestone tyres. Michael Andretti, the Swift chassis, Ford Cosworth engine and Goodyear tyres.
And Goodyear actually have a new tyre here this weekend as well, which they're hoping great things from. Gilles de Ferran doing a good job for Goodyear as well. Michael Andretti lying in 5th position is the top Goodyear. No, he's not the top Goodyear runner at the moment. Bobby Rahal, in fact, doing a fine job, of course, in 2nd place. So that's a good performance from Rahal, and still keeping Zanardi honest as Andretti keeps the pressure on Maurizio Gugelmin. Zanardi leads after 9 laps have been completed. Bobby Rahal lies 2nd. Vassar is 3rd. Gugelmin in 4th. Then it's Andretti and Brian Herter. Zanardi then maintaining his advantage at 1.5 seconds at the moment. Then we've got just under a second back to Jimmy Vassar. Top 3 places staying fairly even. I think really this battle is the one we have to concentrate on, although Gilles de Ferran has now actually closed up a little bit more to Brian Herter there. The Shell car goes through, then the blue and white car of Gilles de Ferran. So he's now beginning to hunt down that position. That's 6th position, but just look at the lead that Zanardi has already managed to open up, and in fact now Jimmy Vassar is as close as ever to Bobby Rahal.
Yes, he is. And here we are looking at Bobby Rahal under pressure from Jimmy Vassar, right behind the other car, coming out of the turn 3 hairpin, and Rahal gets the power down superbly well. He drives so well on this track. Every year except for one, he's qualified amongst the top 3, maintained that streak this year, qualifying 2nd, still running 2nd, and he's also finished 2nd on 3 occasions before. He'd love to go one better.
Coming out of the tunnel there, the change of light, always tricky. Beautiful sunny day we have here. It's actually the best weather we've had over the course of this entire weekend so far. It's brought out the crowd as well. They reckon around 75,000 people here. It's a very, very enthusiastic Canadian crowd. They love their motor racing, and they're enjoying the battle at the moment, and the chance to see Zanardi crowned as champion here in Canada. But for the moment, the battle is between Bobby Rahal in the middle light car, being chased by Jimmy Vassar in 3rd. Gugelmin and Andretti go through, then Herter and de Ferran. There's Greg Moore. Behind Moore is Scott Pruitt, then Mark Blundell running in 10th place. Ribeiro is 11th. Fittipaldi 12th. Frank Kitty has dropped back a little bit. He's now down in 13th, so he had a bad restart last time around. Raul Moselle is 14th. Adrian Fernandez is 15th. Then Parker Johnston 16th, Alonso Jr. in 17th, and Max Papis in 18th position. Bobby Rahal holds on to 2nd place from Jimmy Vassar just about at the moment, but the gap has narrowed. Alex Zanardi has moved to 2.5 seconds advantage out in front, but it's the 2nd of the Target Ganassi cars we're concentrating on now. The reigning champion, Jimmy Vassar, who's yet to win a race this year, but he is pushing Bobby Rahal very hard. Great onboard shots. This is through some of the fastest part of the course. They've gone through turn 1, coming through turn 2, very bumpy as well, and then onto the brakes when they come down to the hairpin. This is the slowest corner. Very demanding, though, to get the power on smoothly without sliding the car too much, and then taking the concrete wall into the chicane. Now this is another slow corner, taking it about 46 miles an hour, again in 2nd gear before changing up and getting up to over 150 miles an hour as they go through the tunnel. Rahal just able to eke out a little advantage again over Jimmy Vassar.
Once again there, a contrast of they're both running Reynard chassis, but the Ford Cosworth engine and Goodyear tyres for Bobby Rahal, the Miller Lite car. Right behind him there is Jimmy Vasser and the Target car with Honda horsepower and Firestone tyres.
Keep an eye out for Greg Moore. The fans are going to love this. They're seeing the blue and white car closing up to the back of the Valvoline car of Gilles de Ferran. And Greg Moore, who comes from Maple Ridge, British Columbia, he's got a fantastic amount of support here, but he's never quite had the luck on his home track. It didn't come together for him last year, which was the first season that he was in the kart series, and he went out early on as a retirement. But this year, he's just playing it carefully at the moment. Remember, he won the Detroit street race from 7th place on the grid. This time he started 9th. He's running in 8th place at the moment, but do not count the Canadian out of this one yet. He's an aggressive racer when he needs to be, but he's also got a good team in Forsyth, and they'll be able to put in some good pit stops when that matters.
He's developed so quickly as a racing driver. He showed his talents when he dominated the Indy Lights Championship a couple of years ago. He was very, very strong last year, even if in his rookie season he was overshadowed by Alex Zanardi. He's a very mature young man, 22 years old. He acts a lot more than that, and he just is driving quite beautifully. He did make a mistake a couple of weeks ago in Elkhart Lake. I don't think we'll see him make another one this afternoon.
Just behind him, you can see the yellow and orange car of Scott Pruitt. Behind him, Mark Blundell in the Motorola car. So Blundell still in the hunt. He's in 10th position. Behind him is Andre Ribeiro in 11th place. Then Christian Fittipaldi and Dario Franchitti in 13th position. Bozell, Fernandez, Johnston and Alonso Jr. are then chasing that group. As up front, it's still Alex Zanardi who's controlling the pace of the race. 3.7 seconds now is Alex Zanardi's advantage over Bobby Rahal as we concentrate on this battle for 6th place. Brian Herter, Gilles de Ferran, there he goes. And then Greg Moore next up in 8th place. And now look at this. This Bobby Rahal getting past Hiro Matsushita and safely getting past. But that has given Jimmy Vasser a little bit of an opportunity as they come across the start-finish line. Jimmy Vasser as close as we've seen him, but then through the flat-out kink, very difficult for Vasser to do anything about Rahal. You're looking at the moment at the gap between, and down the escape road is Zanardi. Zanardi's gone down the escape road, and the leader of the race is in trouble. It means that Rahal has now taken over the lead of this race, and Zanardi has to wait and wait and wait and wait until he can come back into the race.
He stalled the engine. He stalled the engine. Here he was, right in the clutch, waiting for the rest of the field to go through to get an opportunity to get back in the race, and he's killed the engine.
Unbelievable. Let's take a look at the replay, and on board he's coming down into the hairpin, gets it on the brakes. It's very money, locks up that right front, decides not to even try to make the corner, goes straight down the escape road. But Jeremy, it's quite a long way around, isn't it?
It certainly is a long way around. There's a lot of people have been down there this weekend. They're trying to bump start the car. I think they've maybe got it going. There's Chip Ganassi, Maurice Nunn next to him, his race engineer. Heartbreak for those guys, but Zanardi is underway. There he goes, just ahead of Michel Jourdain Jr. at the back of the field.
This is the battle for the lead now. Bobby Rahal leads in Vancouver. He's got a lot of support up here in Canada, and the fans will enjoy this. But behind him, he's got the reigning champion, Jimmy Vasser, who is so hungry for victory this year. He's yet to score a win in the season that follows on that championship winning season last year. It's been a disappointing time for him, and he now will scent victory. He's been really going well all weekend. They've changed their approach, and he looks so fired up.
He does, doesn't he? But harking back to we're going to have another replay, I think, of the Alex Zanardi. There is a head-on shot coming into turn 3, locking up that right front brake. He knows there's no chance of making the corner, so on around he goes. He knows the way through there, but he has to wait once he gets a little bit farther around before he can rejoin the race. He has to wait for a gap in the traffic, and that's when he stalled the engine. Elementary mistake by Alex Zanardi, most uncharacteristic.
Yes, he had a big advantage. We mentioned a 3.8 or 3.7 second advantage leading up to that point, and Zanardi just being caught out by the bumps. But it really does demand intense concentration, this place, partly because of those bumps. You only need to get onto the brake slightly differently, or indeed have the car in a slightly different position. Then the bumps are slightly different, the car is affected, you lock up the right front as he did there, and you've just got to go straight on. And I'm sure he will not be the last car that we see to do that this afternoon, but it could be the most critical car, because he was race leader. He was looking for victory here in Vancouver to settle the championship. He really has made a hard afternoon's work for himself now. Rahal, though, is controlling this race, and Jimmy Vasser so far can't quite do anything about it. Third and fourth, Gujamin and Andretti.
at the marbles there on the forefront of the screen here. You can see that there goes Greg Moore and the Scott Pruitt. They're just scattering those marbles of rubber, just little bits of rubber that come off their tyres. Just as the race goes on, you just don't want to get offline. You get on that stuff and you're in serious trouble. Look at it here building up in the forefront of the screen once again.
Yes, we've seen that on some of the other street tracks, haven't we? Particularly Detroit, where a lot of little bits of rubber collect by the side of the racing line. Causes big problems, particularly when the driver moves off the normal racing line. You get the rubber pickup on the tyre. The very hot tyre is very sticky, obviously, picks up the little cold marbles of rubber, and then the car starts to slide around even more. So it's a major problem for the drivers to have to deal with that, and they'll be trying to stay on line as much as possible. When they're lapping back markers, that could cause them a few difficulties. Gugelmin running well in third, Michael Andretti running consistently in fourth, and Michael's won enough races here in Vancouver to know that in the first stint leading up to that first pit stop, the main thing is to stay out of trouble and then try and have a very quick, smooth pit stop and gain track position in that way.
Last year, Alex Zanardi went, I think it was 19 laps before he had the incident with PJ Jones. Doesn't even get that far this time, only 15 laps in the lead. This time, no question about it, Alex Zanardi's mistake. And it's interesting, talking to Michael Andretti last year, he remains convinced that it was Zanardi's mistake more so than PJ Jones's that put Zanardi out of that race. As far as Michael Andretti was concerned, Alex Zanardi was well in control. He pulled away and fine, PJ Jones was holding him up, and he was costing him time to Michael Andretti, but he had a much faster car. He could have afforded to wait even another couple of laps before making that move. An interesting perspective there for Michael Andretti.
Let's just tell you, Alex Zanardi is running in 23rd place, so he's got back in. He's lying between PJ Jones and Michel Jourdain at the moment at the back of the field, and as we've seen, it's very difficult to overtake. We may see some risky moves coming up from Zanardi throughout the course of this race as he tries to recover the lost ground. And don't forget, he's done it once before this year in Cleveland when he dropped right to the back of the field and he still came through to win the race. But Cleveland, a very different kind of circuit, the one we have here in Vancouver. Very wide open spaces, lots of overtaking possible. Here it's going to be a completely different job, but PJ Jones is in trouble. Jones looks as though he's had an engine failure from the Toyota motor in the back of his car, and a dramatic smoky exit for PJ Jones from this race on lap number 20.
I think that's the end of that race, isn't it, for him? Yet another Toyota failure. I don't know whether they'll be able to get this car out of the way without recourse to a full course caution. Certainly a local yellow flag there at the moment, and as yet no sign of Jim Swintal waving both the yellow flags. So the corner workers just making sure there's no significantly more damage, I should say, put to that car. There's a bucket of water on the back end. Try and keep the flames under control. It seems to be just smoke and mirrors. There comes a crane, that's good news, to try and get that car out of the way without recourse to a caution. That's an excellent effort by CART.
Yeah, so hopefully we won't have to go to a full course caution here. If we do, we're likely to see some pit stops being made, but if they can get that car out of the way cleanly, there shouldn't be too many problems. Up front then, Bobby Rahal leads the race. We've seen him leading already this year, remember, particularly in Brazil, when he led right up until the final stages of the race, only to run out of fuel in the closing moments. But now he looks very, very strong here. Qualified in second place, remember, yesterday to Alex Zanardi. A few tenths of a second off, but heading the rest of them. And the Goodyear tyre working brilliantly well at the moment. Behind him is Vassar, who's still only got that local yellow down there. It still looks as though we're going to stay green flag racing, which is great news. And Jimmy Vassar is as close as ever to the back of Bobby Rahal's car as they go past us into turn one. Look how close Jimmy Vassar's slotting himself in behind Bobby Rahal. Is he going to have a little try into the hairpin? Looks as though he might think about it. He's on the inside, but he decides against it at the last moment. To get in there side by side is so tight, and Jimmy Vassar decides that discretion is the better part of valor for the moment. And in fact, if anything, it's put him into the clutches of Maurizio Gugelmin. So he can't afford to try anything too clever here.
No, he can't, can he? It certainly, Bobby Rahal knows he's there already. I don't think he really need to make his presence felt. Bobby Rahal is under intense pressure here. And, you know, it's down to a tyre battle at the moment, I think. Bobby Rahal is on the Goodyear tyres, and the next two behind him are on Firestones, and Michael Andretti hanging on to that lead battle in fourth place is on Goodyear's as well. But, you know, the last few races, Firestone, the tyres have been so consistent, and and durable, and the Goodyears are tended to go away. As of the moment, Rahal is lapping very consistently, 57.6 last time around. That's about what he's been doing for most of the time since he took over the lead from Alex Zanardi.
So the tyre seems to be holding up extremely well, and Goodyear will be delighted with this performance. This is one track, I think in fact it's the only road course now that Firestone have not yet won.